Well, thanks very much for coming along this morning. As you know, Peter's indisposed because of a family bereavement, so you're very welcome this morning. Arlene, Sammy, Nelson have joined us, and what we're doing this morning is launching this publication, which will be going throughout the province, which is 40 of our achievements in 4 years, setting down just in a very clear form 40 of the main achievements of the executive over the last 4 years. And we recognise in terms of the last 4 years of the Assembly that enormous progress has been made in terms of bringing stability to the political institutions, of getting devolution up and running. Compared to the last previous period of devolution, when devolution crashed 3 times and then ultimately crashed for good, we got the devolution up and running and brought stability to that. And I don't think there's anybody out there now who seriously believes that devolution is not going to continue. There are some who would want to see it destroyed and drag us back to direct rule and so on, but they are decreasing in numbers as well. But I think it's also right, as well as pointing to that main achievement, and the real, I think, achievement of this period of devolution has been that period of stability and completing the work of devolution, for instance, the devolution of policing and justice on the right terms. What we want to point out is that despite all of the criticisms that are out there, there were significant and real achievements for individuals, for hard-working families and for businesses and the economy during that period as well. And it's very easy to overlook a lot of that and to sort of hear all the negativity that's out there. And I think it is important to recognise what has been achieved and at the same time recognise that there's still a considerable amount of work to do. But in terms of looking through this document, we are pointing out that the free travel on public transport, for instance, deferred water charges, the 20% discount on rates to every person over 70 living alone, freezing the regional rate. These are all significant contribution to the living standards of hard-working families and individuals. And at this time, when we're hearing so much rightly about the pressure on families and households and income, with all the Tory Lib Dem cuts that are coming and the changes that have been made, it is important to recognise that the Northern Ireland Executive is and has made a difference to the living standards of people for good. And had it not been for the measures that have been taken by the devolved executive, then clearly households would have been spending considerably more in terms of taxes and public levies and so on. And I think Arlene will be saying a few words just in terms of business, and I'll bring Nelson in terms of what's been done on the culture and sports fronts and all, and the investment that's gone in there. But I think that in terms of jobs and investment, this has been a period over the last 4 years where we've seen the greatest amount of new jobs created. We have seen the greatest amount of capital expenditure happening. And we have laid the foundations, I think, in terms of moving forward. We do recognise that in terms of the next 4 years, it's going to be very difficult in terms of public expenditure. But our priority is to try to safeguard the impact on hard-working families, individuals and businesses, and to make Northern Ireland the best place to live and to have business and to have a job. So, Arlene, I'll hand over to you in terms of the economy side of things, and then I'll go to Sammy.
Sure. And just to take that on further in relation to our household bills, we have the lowest household taxes anywhere in the United Kingdom, and I think that sometimes isn't reflected because of the difficult experience that households have been having. But we have been listening, and indeed very early on Sammy brought in the Small Business Rates Relief Scheme, and as a measure of how we've been listening, he has now extended that Small Business Rates Relief Scheme to others, and to make sure that they feel the benefit of the rates relief scheme. And I know Sam will want to say something about that, but Nigel said that the greatest achievement has been around political stability. And I have seen the greatest benefit of that in relation to the investment that has come into Northern Ireland. Over the period from 2007 to now, we have had £2.6 billion of investment brought into Northern Ireland. We have seen £500 million of extra salary worth come into Northern Ireland as a result of that foreign direct investment. And we know that there's difficulties. We're in a global downturn. There are some who would like to pin the global downturn to the executive, but I have to say that's not of our making. But what we've been trying to do is to find ways to help people through that global downturn. And whether, from my perspective in relation to business, that's from the short-term assistance scheme or the accelerated support fund, the way in which we have managed our own devolved solutions for businesses, or indeed trying to bring in more and better jobs into Northern Ireland. And it is a fact that over this past 4 years we have been able to bring more and better jobs into Northern Ireland than in any 4-year period in our history. And I think that's quite something, given that we have been in the midst of a global downturn. So in the little document you'll see mention of some of the more significant investments. The Bombardier investment, obviously the biggest ever private investment into Northern Ireland, which was helped through with government support of £520 million into Bombardier, and indeed the City Group coming and bringing more jobs into Belfast, 500 new jobs. The, of course, New York Stock Exchange Euronext, which was a very significant announcement for us here in Belfast, because it draws in, obviously it was significant in and of itself, but it also draws in other investment into Belfast, and I'm sure that that will continue over the next period of time. So there has been very significant investments. We recognise the difficulties that there has been in relation to the local unemployment statistics, and that is why SAMI has made available £18.9 million to deal with that unemployment that has been a difficulty over this past number of months. So I'll hand over to Sammy now, who will want to talk about the wider economic and fiscal issues, but those are the issues that I wanted to raise here this morning.
Yeah. Down through the years of the Troubles, there was very limited investment in our cultural infrastructure in Northern Ireland. And over the past 4 years, a lot of work has been done to address that issue. Mention has been made already there of the refurbishment of or the rebuilding of the Public Record Office in the Titanic Quarter. We also have the refurbishment of the Ulster Museum. And those are two major investments that contribute significantly to our tourism product. They're projects that are a benefit to local people in Northern Ireland. We benefit from them, but also many of the visitors who come to Northern Ireland come because of their cultural interests, and the museum and the Public Record Office have a vital role to play in that. Investment hasn't just been in Belfast. We obviously have, in addition to those two investments, the Crescent Arts Centre, the Metropolitan Arts Centre, but there's also been significant investment up in the northwest and Londonderry as well, in the Playhouse and the Millennium Theatre. So there's been huge investment in capital work for our infrastructure right across the province. We've also been investing in sporting infrastructure, and we've just announced, of course, the £138 million package for the three main sports, which will provide us with 3 landmark sports grounds. It will also ensure that there is substantial development for football grounds at a lower level. But in addition to that, we've also had a community sports programme which has brought, or will bring, sporting facilities at a local level, putting 3G pitches in particular into communities in many parts of Northern Ireland. Now, some people say, why at this particular time do you invest so heavily in sporting infrastructure? Are there not more pressing issues? I think that there are very strong arguments for that sort of investment, because the major sporting grounds will generate income that will add to and assist the sustainability of the sports at all levels. And sport is important. The biggest single health issue that we have facing us in Northern Ireland is obesity. And too many young people are sitting in front of a computer screen or whatever, watching a television or whatever. They need to become more active. And we need, therefore, more sporting facilities to encourage participation in sport. So that addresses the issue, or helps to address the issue of obesity, and all of the other health things that follow from that, because obesity is not an issue in itself, it leads on to other problems. I believe that that investment at a local level, I was out at several facilities the other week looking at where we're going to put the 3G pitches. Down there at Market Hill at Kilcrooney Orange Hall, where they're going to get a new 3G pitch right beside the Orange Hall that will enable the community there, for the first time ever in Market Hill, to have a 3G pitch for young people. So you've got the sporting facilities, the arts facilities, the infrastructure being put in place. In terms of job creation, we need to rebuild and rebalance our economy, reshape it. And one of the strong potential areas there is surely that of cultural industries and creative industries. Northern Ireland is becoming increasingly recognised as a location for filmmaking. And some of those series that come to Northern Ireland to be made generate millions of pounds for the local economy. For a modest investment, you get a very, very substantial return. And so companies like HBO, the American television giant, are now coming to Northern Ireland as a preferred location for film production. Not only the filmmaking, but also the digital sector is a growing sector here. And we have many skilled young people there working in that sector, and we've been involved in taking young people from here out across the world to trade events so that they can engage with the big companies like Disney or Google or HBO or whatever. So there's a lot of investment there, a lot of work that's been done in culture in terms of sport infrastructure, and also then in terms of trying to generate jobs through creative and cultural industries.
Right, thanks very much, Nelson. So.